storyteller.
Years ago, when I was a senior in college, obsessed with mysterious tales, I decided I had to visit the Winchester Mystery House in San Jose, California. They say this place is cursed by hundreds of souls who died from Winchester guns. Sarah Winchester, the owner, built frantically for 38 years just to appease them. But she didn't know that some vengeful spirits would never be appeased, and they were waiting for someone to make a mistake, to turn them into a part of the eternal horror within this house. I remember that night clearly, a cold October evening, dense fog clinging to the streets of San Jose. We, a small group of curious thrill-seekers, just 6 of us, squeezed through the rusty iron gates of the Winchester Mystery House for a special night tour. As we stepped into the seance room Sarah Winchester once used to call out to spirits, a sudden, bone-chilling cold swept over us. It wasn't the cold of the night, but a cold permeated with the scent of death, the rotting smell of old wood and damp mold, like from a freshly dug grave. The entire atmosphere in the room suddenly thickened, becoming so heavy I felt like I couldn't breathe. Then, a sound. Not just footsteps, but a terrifying, dragging thud, as if something heavy, a clumsy body, was being torn across the old wooden floor, each sound getting closer, echoing from the pitch-black hallway. My heart hammered in my chest, threatening to leap out. Cold sweat began to pour from my body. Suddenly, the door to the room we were in slammed shut with a dry crack, resounding like breaking bones, then immediately burst open with horrifying force, like a furious scream from a demon. A bone-chilling draft swept in, blowing the old curtains wildly. In that very instant, I felt an icy hand, gnarled fingers, sharp as devil's claws, clamped tightly onto my shoulder from behind. So cold I could feel every blood vessel in my shoulder freeze. I wanted to scream, but my throat choked up. Then a voice, hoarse, hissed right next to my ear, a sound seemingly made from hundreds of souls groaning in pain, echoing in my mind like a curse. You will pay for the blood and tears spilled in this place. All of you will atone. No one will escape. I spun around, but there was no one there. Yet right before my eyes, an old photograph on the wall, depicting a man with empty, hauntingly soulless eyes, suddenly fell, shattering into sharp pieces on the floor, scattering like broken bones. The shattered mirror fragments reflected my pale, utterly panicked face. The tour guide, whose face was also ashen, stammered that it was the ghost of an unfortunate construction worker, unjustly buried beneath newly completed walls. He, trapped in his own death, had now awakened ... to demand justice, to seek revenge. I swear, I've never forgotten that terrifying feeling. Even though I've left, the image of those shattered mirror fragments and the sensation of that icy hand gripping my shoulder still haunt me to this day. The Winchester House isn't just a bizarre architectural marvel. It's a living tomb where restless spirits still linger, waiting for someone foolish enough to awaken their wrath. Sometimes in the quiet dead of night, I still hear that dragging thud, as if something is being pulled, right under my bed, and I know that curse is still there, forever. Listen, this isn't a fairy tale. It happened at Burley House, an ancient castle in Cambridgeshire, England, where I used to work in art conservation a few years ago. Everyone knows the story of Agnes, the woman accused of witchcraft, and who died in the castle's dungeon in the 17th century. She swore she'd return, to haunt and destroy all those who wronged her. I used to think it was just a rumor, until I experienced it myself, the horrifying truth. A truth that will send shivers down your spine. Late one evening, I stayed alone in the castle to finish an old painting. It was pouring rain, thunder, and lightning raging, further intensifying the gloom of the place. I was concentrating when suddenly, a horrifying laugh echoed from the hallway. Not a normal laugh, but a hoarse, distorted sound like the laugh of a trapped demon, hissing from deep within its throat, as if someone enduring extreme pain was still trying to laugh. The laughter resonated throughout the rooms, winding through every nook and cranny, making my blood run cold. I tried to calm myself, telling myself it was just the wind or mice. But then, the door to the room I was working in slowly opened on its own, creaking, revealing a pitch-black hallway. A bone-chilling, damp draft swept in, carrying a faint scent of damp earth and decaying matter. A smell I will never forget, the smell of death. I didn't dare to look, but out of the corner of my eye, I saw a blurry shadow, the shape of a long-haired woman, dressed in a stark white gown, gliding across the threshold like an icy gust of wind, then vanishing into the ancient stone wall right before my eyes, as if she had never existed, leaving only a terrifying illusion. I felt a shiver run down my spine, but I couldn't move. Immediately after, I felt a sharp, burning pain on my arm. I quickly pulled up my sleeve, and I swear, on my skin was a red, burning welt shaped like a long, sharp fingernail, dug deep into my skin. That was exactly where I felt the dark shadow had touched me. The true horror washed over me. I knew it wasn't my imagination. It was Agnes, and she was carrying out her curse, leaving a painful mark on my flesh as a warning. I left Burley House immediately after that. The marks on my skin disappeared, but the haunting didn't. That horrifying laugh, the smell of death, and the sensation of being touched by something supernatural, it all remains in my mind. I am certain that Agnes's spirit is still there, seeking revenge. Anyone who dares to visit Burley House on a stormy night, prepare to face the witch's blood curse. For she will not stop until blood has been spilled, until those who committed the crimes have atoned, until no one can escape her vengeance. I used to be one of the museum staff working at Alcatraz, that notorious prison in San Francisco. Everyone knows about the criminals, but no one talks about the ghosts, the souls of those who died unjustly, tormented by the very guards themselves. Especially Warden Roberts, a notoriously cruel man who instilled fear to the bone. I used to think they were just stories to scare tourists, until one night, I met him in the very dungeon where he committed countless atrocities. That night, I was assigned to stay and check the security system in the solitary confinement section, a place known as the Hell of Hell. That place always had a chillingly eerie atmosphere, a deathly silence, unlike other areas of the prison. As I walked through the dark hallway, where light barely seeped through small crevices, I began to hear agonizing, desperate moans, ceaseless, as if hundreds of people were writhing in ultimate despair and torment, echoing from empty cells, not a soul in sight. Then the clanging of chains, dragging across the cold stone floor, the grating sound of metal rubbing against itself, each sound like a knife scraping against my ears, making my hair stand on end, giving me goosebumps all over. I tried to stay calm, telling myself it was just the wind whistling through the bars, or old prison sounds. But then the temperature in the hallway suddenly dropped, becoming bone-chillingly cold, as if I were standing in the middle of a giant freezer, an icy blast of air hitting my face. At the same time, I felt a strong, invisible force push me from behind, a brutal shove that made me stagger and almost fall, hitting the cold stone wall. I could barely stand. Immediately after, a voice, not human, but a hoarse, hateful whisper, hissed right next to my ear, as if someone was breathing heavily, their icy breath on the back of my neck. You too will pay for every lash, every drop of blood. No one escapes my punishment. I spun around, and I swear, in that fleeting moment, I saw a tall, shadowy figure with glowing red eyes like burning coals in the darkness, an image that flashed by, but was enough to etch itself into my mind. It glided through the hallway like a nightmare and vanished into the cold stone wall, as if it had never existed. Immediately after, a strong smell of fresh blood and salty seawater assailed my nose, making me gag. I knew who it was. It was the spirit of a prisoner who had been unjustly beaten to death by Roberts. Now, he had returned to demand justice, to haunt the one who committed the atrocities, making him live in eternal fear forever. I quit my job immediately after that. Alcatraz isn't just a prison. It's a living hell where tormented souls still linger. Although many years have passed, the sensation of being pushed, the hateful whisper, and those glowing red eyes still haunt me in every dream. Sometimes, late at night, I still smell blood and seawater. I believe that Warden Roberts cannot find peace. His soul is forever imprisoned in this very prison, suffering the revenge of the souls he once tormented. It's a fitting price to pay, a brutal punishment from which there is no escape.